This is the Shakespeare Association of America Conference. I'm Elise Levine, Academic Marketing Director, Bloomsbury Academic and Professional. We know that professors coming to SAA are primarily interested only in new publications, and so the center part of our booth is devoted to everything new in 2011, and we even fly in our lead titles about 1 month prior to USA Pub Date so that the professor gets a value added from coming to the Ardent booth by getting, in effect, a sneak peek at a new edition that's not available anywhere else. The publication of Sir Thomas More was definitely the buzz of this year's SAA, in the same way that Double Falsehood stole the show at last year's conference. The back wall of our exhibit proved invaluable for putting a spotlight on pubs that are coming later in the calendar year, plus highlighting our spot banners, and of course we are not above using swag to draw people into the booth. There are two things we try to accomplish on the display part of the booth. One is to make very clear distinctions between the product lines. That is accomplished often with signage, as you see here, for the Early Modern Drama series. And two, we try to create meaningful takeaway flyers for the professor. In this case, on the back, we printed excerpts from the Ardent introduction to remind them of what they saw in the booth. On the Methuen Drama side of the booth, there was very good brand recognition for New Mermaids and a lot of inquiries about new pubs. I also saw a much broader based inquiry for the screen adaptations for the Shakespeare plays, and a lot of interest focused on the practitioner titles. I think there's a lot of room for growth in this conference for that side of the list. This brings us to the competitor booths at SAA, which I will only briefly overview because there hasn't really been that much change from last year. Publishers like Penguin, which you just saw, and Cengage were giving out their editions of the Shakespeare plays, free review copies to professors, but there were not a lot of product differentiators, there was not a lot of support material, and there certainly was not a lot of staff pitching the books to the professors. Bedford was the only publisher that I saw who was promoting any type of digital component for their content. And that's this brochure here, Ever Wanted to Build Your Own Book. But that was the extent of it. It was just that brochure on the table. There were two factors that negatively impacted the level of traffic in the exhibits this year. One was logistical. The exhibits were located far from where the professors had their meetings, and there was just no natural flow to get them into our room. They had to make a point of coming into the exhibit area. The second problem, however, was the general quality of the publisher exhibits. This is something that was also acknowledged by the SAA, and I think you can clearly see this from the video clips here. There was not a lot of effort put in to these exhibits. There was not a lot of promotion of front list or back list, and there were not really very interesting support materials to give out to these professors. There was nothing to really draw them in to come and see the exhibits, given the fact that they were in back-to-back meetings and that there were other distractions just being in the city. And so this is something that we need to consider at future conferences. There is no question that at this show, as the waves of professors came into the exhibit hall, they came to the Ardent booth first, and they tended to cluster around our exhibit. As they left with their important new pubs and their support material and of course their swag, they went back to their meetings, they told other people about what they got at the exhibits, and that word of mouth sustained us through second, third, and fourth waves, for the duration of the show. So as you can see with a final look at the Oxford booth, the publishers tended to be very conventional and passive in their marketing, throw an enormous amount of product on tables without much hand selling or support material, and this is something that we need to evaluate each season as we look at conferences as a component of our marketing. While at SAA, we conducted a focus group for Drama Online. We gave them a very basic interface of the digital web portal, and we asked a very basic premise, which was, how do we make our content available to you in a way that allows you to read the plays, research the plays, take the content, organize it, share it with colleagues, and output it in meaningful ways. And there you see Margaret conducting the focus group, and she will have a separate detailed report on our findings.